We're live, just
We're
like that.
live. No, just cold open. All right, cool.
Just
Yeah, no, we
cold.
didn't do that. All
We
right.
didn't even
Well, welcome.
roll in.
Yeah,
That's
welcome everyone to a free solution. This is the online part. So while we let folks trickle in, Tim and I are just gonna we're today it's gonna be all fake news all the time. It's a whole show full of fake news stuff because boy howdy does the war produce a lot of that.
excuse me. Yeah, the first casualty of war is the truth. But we're living in a day and age where as I've repeated many times to you, Kevin, truth is somewhat tenuous and nebulous anymore. I don't even know. I don't think the mainstream media tells the truth all the time.
Not always,
I think
but
that they
we just,
exaggerate stuff. Maybe.
well, it's yeah. People are trying to tell a good story, right? And you shouldn't let the truth get in the way of that.
You cannot let the truth get out in the way of a great narrative. That's for sure. That's really important.
All right. Well, I think I got. All right. I think I got my stuff right. I was trying to find all the screenshots of like memes and articles to talk
Nice.
about. So I said, folks, for those of you who are joining us now, we're going to be chatting about fake news this whole show and kind of how war can be a big generator of fake news items.
Imagine
Uh,
that, though.
yeah.
People are going to start telling us that the ghost of uh, the Kiev is not a real person, and
Kiev.
that
Is it Kiev or Kiev?
well, look, that's something. I've got to be honest. I've never had chicken Kiev, but I've had chicken Kiev, and
Yeah.
that's a reality.
Pretty
That
sure the Anglicanized version of that is just Kevin.
oh, the ghost
We're
of
all pronouncing it
the
wrong.
ghost of Kevin.
It's just
That
Kevin.
I like that. That actually fits. I'm disappointed that we haven't handled this whole Kiev versus Kiev
Yeah,
thing
just like
appropriately.
Ukrainian, Russian. I don't know. It's all hard. Just like put in English. It's Kevin now.
Yes, all right. I like it. Anglicize everything.
Yeah, like we're under no obligation to pronounce like a country's cities, right? Like, does anyone like say the German name for Munich in the United States? No, we don't. It's totally
Munich.
different.
Don't we
No.
say Munich?
Yeah,
That's
in the
the
United
name.
States we say Munich. It's not called Munich in Munich. It's called München.
What? Nobody's nah. This is
Yeah, it is.
crazy.
Yeah, it's called München.
Come on, man.
That's what it is.
How do you say that?
München. There's like
München.
M-U with an umlaut,
Okay.
N-C-H, München.
Well, that Germans talk funny anyway. We know that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. I'm kidding, German people. I love you, everyone.
So finally, the names are very different.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But so yeah, we'll just make up our name for it. No, that's terrible. All right, so we should go and so we'll say at I lost my sheet of paper. Yeah, I need my scraps.
I'm up to 107 likes now on TikTok. Thank you guys. I very much appreciate that. I really
Wow.
do.
Go in at 4 minutes.
All right.
So 4 to 14 for segment 1. Yeah. It gives me time to drink more of my beer.
Nice. We can do this with beer. Did you catch this news article?
Oh my gosh.
I'm
All
definitely
right,
gonna.
yeah, we'll show that during the
That
show
one's
too.
got to work its way in for sure for our internet viewers, man.
All right. So we're going in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, brother. Once again, I'm. It's Friday, but I'm a little disappointed. I don't think that society is handling this Kiev versus Kiev issue
That's
appropriately.
number one issue on your mind right now.
Well,
How do you pronounce that city's name?
I mean, I've never had chicken Kiev before, so
Kiev.
I
Kiev's apparently like I am told some people have said, I don't know if this is fake news, that the Ukrainian way of saying is Kiev. Even
you
though
know, yeah. I mean, like what? Honestly, I don't even think I believe that. Is that from CNN? Like, what's your source on that?
like NPR, so trusted government news. So
Oh well, yeah. No way. Hang on. All right.
wait, yeah, no, I know, like that's what I've heard. I've heard people pronouncing it Kiev. Again, we could just like Americanize it. We're gonna start calling it Kevin. And that's
I do like that idea. Chicken Kevin.
Chicken
All
Kevin,
right,
that's
that
right.
works for me. Thank
So
you.
yeah, we're just gonna do that. But so speaking of fake news, though, we're gonna spend most of this day talking about fake news. Like war situations tend to produce a lot of that, and
Yeah. I
what
mean,
I want to sort through today is like one, like not just like the truth of stuff, because like we're not gonna know all of it, right? Like, and situations are gonna change, and then
yeah.
also like kind of what's the difference between like propaganda and marketing, and like is it malicious, is it useful, does it depend on what the goal is, or who's doing it too,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, no,
we're going to talk
somebody
about all that.
somebody came at me from a weird angle, like, and it kind of baffled me because I'm so jaded by the news, right? But they came at me from the angle of building these mythological structures about stories out of the Ukraine is good for the Ukrainian society. And I'm like,
Well,
all right,
but
I
we
get
do that in Americans. It's like, okay,
we
I
do.
so
Yeah.
I'm gonna shatter a myth for some of you, but the flag raising at Iwo Jima, totally faked. Like that, like it
What?
was a photo op. That's what it was. Like, I mean, they really took the island, but like the flag raising thing was a photo op.
It was
They
just a
they
photo
went
op.
back and did it.
You know what? I think I heard about that actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, like if it's inspiring and it's based on roughly a true event of them retaking the island, and yeah,
Right.
so like there's stuff like that all the time. And so like this is what's going on of Ukraine too. So like some of the stuff is like wild Facebook rumors, right? Like just someone like says a thing that they think is true, and then it kind of like spins out of control, and like it's not like it's intentional propaganda put out by Ukraine government officials or something. It's just like a rumor that like goes around in the fog of war. Other stuff is really intentional propaganda,
Right.
and again, Ukraine is doing this, Russia's doing this, America's always doing this. It's
Always.
all over, right? And
Yeah.
and and I also want to be careful. Like I'm like to me, like I kind of I see Russia's the aggressor here, and some of their propaganda I think is a lot more malicious. And it's not to say, but I don't want listeners to confuse that with I think it's fine for the Ukrainian government to lie to people in order to like make a point. Like I'm not really comfortable with that
Well, isn't
either.
that
So
isn't that how we got to be libertarians? Like we're
yeah,
just kind of like, look, every single aspect of your story is, and then the other side story. That we're just like
yeah,
you're both kind of lying and trying to persuade me with half truths about stuff, and I'm just like, I just want the
yeah.
best story that I can, and I just want the truth.
Well, they give you the best story, and that's the thing. Again, like part of me,
Good
like as
point.
a marketer, I sort of appreciate this. And so, like, come on, let's talk about like President Zelensky, right?
Yeah,
Like his story, like if it were planned out by a marketing department, like
it,
it's pretty good. Like, and
it
again, I'm not saying it's disingenuine. I'm just saying it's good. Like it tells a good story. Hey, here's a man whose country is under attack. He was, thrust into this position after playing president on TV, which is the
after play
most
like
surreal
I
thing.
think we need to stick our finger at that. After playing president on TV in a TV series, he is now actually president of Ukraine, and after doing some footage where he would wear Kevlar vests and helmets, walking around with troops. Is he walking around with troops in Kevlar protective gear, carrying
Well,
guns?
okay, so like we'll talk about that one, right? So
All right,
like some of that stuff, it's from the conflict in eastern Ukraine that's been going on for a few years. He's been present like as that conflict has
the
continued, and he's gone to the
Donbass,
front lines. Yeah, yeah. So out
Donbass.
there,
Okay,
uh, and and so that's where some of those photos come from. But that doesn't mean that he's not actually still there
right.
and doing stuff. Whatever
He,
that means, right? But
he's engaged in rallying the troops, protecting his people. I,
yeah,
it's okay, that part of it's okay. If I was
yeah.
president, I would definitely y- do something similar, right? Like just inspire
Yeah, like
people.
that's what you would hope that like any good leader would do is right. You stay even if like the only thing you're contributing is that like you are there like making sure you're not obeying your post and going through the same thing that your people are going through. Like
Yeah.
supposedly he could have gotten out. The US would have gotten him out, but he said,
Oh,
I
sure.
need his great line was like, I need ammo, not a ride. Like
Somebody offered him 1,000,000 rounds of ammo. Is that fake news? I can't remember who, but
it might be. I mean,
let me.
the
I'll try to find it
EU,
for later
but
in the show.
um So, but like again, they're crafting an image in the same way like any other politician would, right? Like, Donald Trump crafts an image about himself as like a successful businessman.
Right.
Joe Biden, successfully or not, tries to craft an image of himself as a statesman, who has the experience and wisdom of the years. Again, not saying it's successful. That's just what he tries to do. Same
And
with
I think we can deal with that. A certain percentage of people buy into those narratives, no matter what, if they feel some affiliation with their political character, right? Some people buy into the notion that Donald Trump is a successful businessman. On some level, he is a successful businessman.
yeah.
Some people buy into the notion that Joe Biden is a statesman. Joe Biden certainly buys into that notion. I think that I guess in a way I almost buy into it. I just really don't like him,
Yeah, right.
like look, I'll be honest, guys. I liked Trump more than I like Joe Biden. I just
Yeah.
didn't really like Trump that much. To me, like I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, no, I mean that's is what it is. Sometimes, you can still have a slight preference even if like neither option's great,
Like,
or vote for a third option
the
and
lesser of two evils, Kevin. The lesser of two evils keeps getting
uh
us lesser and more evil.
sure does all the time. But listen, like again, I appreciate it because like when I'm telling a story about a brand, right? Like again, this isn't like the same thing. I know this is a war, this is real life, this is stuff
True,
happening. This isn't a TV show.
true.
Even though like I made a dark joke the other day. It's like, I don't like the gritty reboot of this man's like show about becoming the president. It's
It's like
they've gone too far.
Reagan-esque, kind of like Reagan was
Yeah,
an
Reagan going from
actor.
an actor to governor to president.
Well, he
Um,
was an actor to the leader of a union to governor, then to president. So,
right,
like,
right, right.
it's a very
So I mean
interesting story.
it happens. But like I can appreciate like you trying to tell your story from a certain angle and inspiring people. And again, if it helps people stay inspired, stay motivated to defend their homeland, which is a real thing. Again, the
It
Russians
is.
really are invading. They're really bombing cities
They
and killing civilians. It's terrible stuff. And so this is something that gives people a little hope. Then maybe that's good. And in this case, I think it's true, even if it's a spin on a story that you know is meant to prop up a political narrative about defending it. And like I know some folks are like, oh well, this is something meant to motivate the West to get into the war, and like this guy's trying to like get other countries into the war. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's understandable because his country's being overrun by a much bigger power. I can't blame him for asking for help. It's
correct.
incumbent upon us as the United States not to get involved in a fight with a nuclear power and to tread carefully about the ways in which we get involved in this, the U.S. government gets involved in this conflict.
Well,
I
we're
can't fault President Zelensky though for doing that.
yeah, I agree. And look, the Ukrainian people have a nationality, a pride, a cohesive structure, despite the issues in the Donbass regions and the Crimea and stuff like that. Like that, I know Russia went in and aggressed. But again, like I always when help me out here, Kevin, because the issue that I get into is what if there are
You're
people
about to
that
be helped out by the break, Tim.
yeah,
So
oh,
you just
all right,
like, oh
perfect.
shoot, where am I going to go with it? Oh, it's a break time. All right, so thanks
Perfect.
again for joining us here on A Free Solution. Appreciate you listening today. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. All right.
All right. Oh, hey, TikTok, thank you very much. I'm up, Kevin. You and I are up to 131 likes on TikTok. And only
Woo!
like 20 of them are from myself. So
Oh,
that's
good.
actually pretty
So you
good,
got
really.
like your stack of phones near you where you're
You can like your own video on TikTok, I found out, which is
okay.
great. But yeah, you
I've
can
never
totally.
tried. So
No, you can.
should I log
Hmm.
in as a free solution and
You have to have 1,000 viewers to do live on TikTok, which or I'm up on
followers?
1,500 followers now at
Yeah.
TikTok. I don't know what they're thinking. They're serious
Um,
question. What's my favorite soup? Honestly, so dilly, my favorite soup. Check this out. Is I make my own soups most of the time. So the other day, basically, I made a chuck roast. Then there was a bone left over. I made a beef stew out of that, beef soup out of that. It was delicious. I did use I put some I used some interesting things, right? I used a little bit of vinegar. I had some peppers that I had canned back in summer. Threw all that stuff in there, and the soup came out good. I left it on the stove in the morning when I went to work, and my freaking dog took the whole thing. It was like a gallon of soup. This big, huge pot. I don't know how she does it, man. She lifted it down off the stove, drank the entire thing. I mean, I got a couple bowls of soup out of it, and it was really good. But my dog weighs 110 pounds. There's a reason why. She's very, very crafty about getting food, man.
Apparently. Oh, that's wild.
But thanks for your question, Dilly. I appreciate it. And I guess cream of broccoli sometimes, or the Japanese place makes a soup that I really
Like a
like. It's
miso
very
soup?
simple. Yeah, it's basically just an onion soup, onion base. It's just I don't know. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I don't know. Love making me a good soup. I got like 3 chicken carcasses in
That's
my
the way to do
freezer
it
that I
too.
need to do that.
You can make soup. You can make chicken and biscuits. I mean, and chicken is very versatile. Like,
Yeah.
and you can make Kiev chicken. Kiev
Chicken Kiev. Yeah,
chicken
you keep
Kiev
calling that.
chicken
Wow.
Kiev.
It's
I used to be
Russian
a waiter.
propaganda.
Yeah, propaganda. I am a propagandist.
Yeah. All right. So what we want to go back 1630?
That's perfect.
1630, go to 2830. And for folks who are joining us online too, we're talking about kind of fake news in relation to the war, and kind of difference between fake news, marketing, propaganda, when is it useful, malicious, etc. Yeah, so we'll go back in about 10 seconds. I'm gonna give 10 seconds so I can find it.
All right.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor. And again, thanks, folks, for listening wherever you're listening on WYSL or WACK out in Newark, or any of our friends listening online to a Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, all the Kevin Wilson pages, all the Tim O'Connor pages, wherever you are. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. And
I'm glad that people are here, man. And this is a lot of fun. Good when we have these conversations. I did, Kevin. I found out who offered the president of Ukraine 1 million rounds of ammunition, and this is a true. As near as I can tell,
this
is
is
a
real
true story.
news. Right.
Yeah, it's real news, man. Even though it's kind of like Richard Childress offers 1 million rounds of ammunition to the Ukraine so that they continue. They can continue fighting the Russians. So he's a NASCAR guy, right? He's used to race. He's a retired NASCAR driver. 1 million rounds. Now, how's he going to get it to him? But I mean,
Elon Musk got his satellites out to him, so
Well, I think. Well, they're way up in the air, Kevin. Like
But
that's.
no, the receivers, the dishes, which
Oh, okay, all right.
Forget they
Okay.
have some ridiculous name like Platey McFlatface or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I might have to look it up. And yeah, so that's interesting. That's real. But people are getting weapon supplies in. There's a guy I follow on Facebook who's trying to get like medical supplies in too.
Oh, that's
So
great. That's
yeah, that'll
wonderful.
be
There is some positive aspects of social media, despite the propaganda narratives that get bantied back and forth. That we can come together and raise money for important situations like people in Ukraine. And guys, I know Kevin basically sympathizes with this view. No matter what, there's people in Russia, there's people in Ukraine, human beings that are subjugated to this aggression, and that to
Yeah.
me as a libertarian, that's the part I always want to talk about that a little bit.
No, and we should again, like something to keep in mind. And like when we start, because I wanted to talk about some of the weird, like kind of fake news and the aggression against like Russian culture and Russian people, which is ridiculous. Again, a lot of the people of Russia are victims in this too. Like the poor,
Absolutely.
like 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who are in there and like probably not realizing the horrors of war or fully grasping like what they're doing in this region. And it's terrible to experience that stuff.
Yeah, there's a
And
reason why we send young men to war, right? Because they can be trained to do things that older people would not accept anymore. And
yeah.
That's really sad to me because they come back hurt and broken from that.
Yeah, and something like it culturally, like these places are close, right? Like there's Ukrainian language, but a lot of folks speak Russian. It'd be like the United States invading Canada. Most of them speak English. Like we may have family members and friends and businesses across borders. So there are connections there that are legitimate. Although Ukraine wants to maintain their sovereignty in the political sense, but so these folks are going in and realizing the horrificness of what is happening.
Okay, so I do. I think we want to. I want to spin you back around because I know I've distracted
Yeah.
you from the fake news narrative, and I think we
Yeah, we'll
want to
talk
get
about
back
that.
to it. Um, so the ghost of Kiev, is he real? Is that real news? Is that fake news, or is that this mythology we need to inspire troops and rally troops in wartime?
Yeah, I mean, like, this is one of those ones where I feel like because it seems like it's probably not real, and there were, like, videos going around too of, like, a fighter jet and stuff that was like, from a video game or
Yeah,
whatever, and people were
right.
sharing that, right? Like, so,
Yeah,
like, maybe not there was a single fighter pilot who took out several Russian aircraft, like, maybe, but, like, the
maybe.
rumor spread and people were excited about it, and that's one of those things where it's just, like, someone spread a rumor on Twitter and Facebook, and then suddenly, like, it blows up and everyone's talking about this thing, right? As like, "Hey, look, like, a single individual going through and being a pilot ace and, like, defending the country." It's a like, one of these things pops up in, like, every war.
Yes, every war. Now the defiant soldiers of Snake Island that were killed standing up to the Russians and denying them, I believe, gas for their ships or something like that. Um, turns out, like, they're basically okay right now. They were totally cool.
Yeah.
Like they TikTok themselves, you know, uh, telling the Russians to f off and stuff like that, which I think is great. Like we're not
No,
giving
no,
you
I mean,
gas.
like, see, like, that's the one people are like, "Oh, that's totally fake." I'm like, "Well, no, they really did record that, that radio transmission was real."
Yeah, that was
Which, I mean, frankly, like, hilarious and terrifying at the same time.
it was
Uh,
hilarious. Yes, they were shaking angry fists at the Russians with no
yeah,
real way to defend themselves, and that is impressive, right?
yeah,
that is inspiring to me.
but they did not die defending the island. Like,
That's
that's
true.
it seems like that wasn't true. That was part of the original stories that came out. It's like, hey, these, like, 13 valiant defenders of Snake Island, stood up to the Russian warships and said, "No, you know, go F yourself," and,
I guess they said
but
it
they
in
didn't die,
Ukrainian though, like, so I don't know what that would sound like.
did they? I don't know. I mean, there's, like, again, if that do I have, like, that much of a problem with it? Like, no, I'm like, "Okay, I'm glad they're alive." Actually, that's great. It doesn't matter if they didn't die in that. I don't know, but I know a bunch of people like, "Oh, well, like, look, you're falling victim to propaganda by sharing some of this stuff." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah,
maybe, that part of it turned out to be not true. I can be glad people aren't dead." I get why it can still be a great rallying cry.
sure.
I mean, it was interesting because there were, like, one of the other fake things that come out is like were a bunch of road signs being changed to go f yourself too, right?
Yeah,
Like as part of a rallying cry, and like there's some of them that are fake, like you'd see like the ones that were actual road signs, like those are photoshopped. Like no
yeah.
one went and made a new sign to go and do that, right? Like at this point in time, making a new road sign to do that to the Russians doesn't matter. They're taking
Right.
down all the signs they could, so like they confused
They did
people
do
trying
that.
to navigate.
Yeah,
But
so
some of them, like I guess, like some of the digital signs may have been real though.
yeah, well, for
Mhm.
and they definitely were taking down signs and moving
Yeah,
them
yeah,
around so the Russians couldn't find their way. Michael Shannon Wilson, thank you for the comment. He heard it was a simulator. So they did some stuff with a simulator. They've done some stuff. They've taken stuff from video games and shown, like, use it as a green screen and put it behind them and watch a missile fly over their head while they're running down the road and stuff like that. So there is a
yeah.
decent amount of really fake stuff coming out of Ukraine. People are very creative. So
Right.
for
Because
good or bad, people are very creative.
yeah, because you could get that, and some folks are tricked by it, and then it'll get picked up by like reporters on Twitter, and then suddenly it goes around like, oh my goodness, look at this thing flying around, right? Um, some of the interesting stuff related to that too, right? It's like where we get like kind of propaganda and counter propaganda and like some of these stories that where it gets really murky to tell if they're true too, right?
I
Like
agree, man.
so like you had that story of like the tank running over the car, right?
Yeah.
So the original story that came out is Russian tank runs over a car, right? Well,
Mhm.
people started looking into it and they're like, well, that's fake because this is a Ukrainian tank and here's why. Well, okay, well that might be true. And a bunch of like I saw like Russian accounts are like, see, like the Ukrainians are running over their own people. And I was like, but I looked into it a little bit more and I saw other people analyzing. They're like, well, it actually looks like it may have been either a friendly fire situation or a saboteur. So it seems like there really was like someone not doing it on purpose, but may have lost control in that like so
Yeah.
again, like what do you make of situations like that? Like people will share this like, oh, here's an atrocity that happened, and like now suddenly like once you start looking into it, it's like, oh no, this is a fog of war situation. We're not sure what happens. And so now you have the Russians saying, like, look, all these attacks that are that people are saying are happening in Ukraine, all these atrocities, this is all fake, right? You'll see some
Right.
of the other stuff with like missiles hitting apartment buildings. So like, well, we think this is actually a Ukrainian missile or like a rocket or whatever. And so all these stories of like Russians attacking civilian targets, these are all fake.
I mean, isn't that's the confusing piece of this because I don't want I want everybody to be a good guy, but Russia can't be the good guy if they're aggressing into a country. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
They are bringing violence to the Ukrainian people, and that's a real problem. So, are they sending missiles into apartment buildings? Not deliberately, but every single time you start shooting missiles, you have no control. There's always a risk that they don't hit your intended target, no matter
Yeah.
what. It's a very dangerous operation to begin with. So
Yeah.
you're going to take the brunt of that. You have to own that as on the world stage.
Right.
You're
And
bringing
so
violence
I
to
mean
Ukraine.
and doing some of the stuff like rumors of thermobaric bombs going off, which are terrible, that type of stuff. I won't go into the details. You can look it up, but is that happening? I don't know. It's hard to tell. Again, attacks on civilian targets. There really is like as we speak right now, and I don't know where it is, like a nuclear power plant that is being shelled.
Oh,
Which
really?
yeah, it's
That's
not
awful.
yeah, that's not great. Um, so that could create other problems for the region. If
Yeah, I mean, you take
eh,
out their power source, even if the nuclear reactor doesn't melt down and spew radiation all over the place. And look, guys, if that happens, right, the only people getting hurt there are innocent people. That the people
yeah,
that starve from losing their power and the people that get damaged from radioactivity. That there's no good way to spin that.
yeah. So again, with a lot like there really is a bunch of horrific stuff happening. It's hard to tell sometimes immediately. Like like if you follow me on social media, like a lot of times, with the exception of like maybe a handful of like experts that'll like retweet from, like I don't share a lot of these rumors because I'm like I don't know if that's true because
I,
I've
on the other hand,
yeah,
share
no,
those
you
rumors.
share like
I
whatever. You're
love
like,
them.
oh, you know what, this meme is fun. All right, great.
I Yes, I
This tells a
definitely
story
do that.
I want to hear.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm teasing
that's
Tim a little bit, but
yes, that's a story I want told right there.
yeah. But a lot of folks, yeah, I'm like, it's kind of what it is though. Like it meets with a narrative that they want to be true. On like the Ukrainian side, again, the Russians are the aggressor here, so I'm not saying like they're bad guys in this, but on the Russian side too, like people are like, oh well, actually, the Russians are justified for X, Y, and Z reasons because of like this nonsense. All right, like I'm done with that. Um,
That's a tough one to buy for sure. I do
yeah.
think that you should check out Diane's show. She has like
Oh
it
yeah, no, yeah, no, for sure. Tim, you know what? You know where you can catch Tim shows the same way I catch him. We have a podcast. Make sure you look up a free solution on any podcasting app. You can
nicely
catch
played.
the shows like that. All right, but we have to go to break now. Thanks again for joining us on a free solution. We're gonna be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. Look at that.
Nice.
Segueing into a promo like a pro.
That was so smooth, Kevin. Now I just
What's
wanna
you're
clarify
not gonna?
something.
Yeah, I was like, you're gonna read down the radio portion, man. What's
No, we can't do that probably. Well, I mean, we're doing it. We probably could, but Mr. Becker, I said I like beavers. They're nature's engineer. I didn't say that I like beaver, which I I got beaver. Is a beaver singular? I don't know, but yeah, yeah, it could be. That's fake news, Mr.
It's
Becker.
fake
Fake news.
news.
That
Dr. Becker spreading fake
was well
news on
played,
this
though. That was
program.
well played. I got to give him that. I started laughing right as we were coming back in when he put it up, and I was like afraid I wasn't going to get my handle back on.
No, way to keep it together.
Yeah, I'm a pro, man. I'm a radio pro. That's how we do this.
No,
Yeah, no.
something like that.
I did find a. Uh, you may have some more information about fake news coming out of the Ukraine conflict, but I found something from the Guardian that lists the top 10 fake news items that come out, and certainly some of them are like, well, that's not really a debunking of this, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to talk
Well,
about
we could go that. I mean, I got a few more
that. Okay,
mostly
I'll
talking
follow
about.
your lead, man. And then if
Yeah,
we
yeah, we whichever. So, all right, yeah, we'll go back in 30 seconds. So we'll go back at 30:30 and go to 40:30. Like, comment, share.
please, I beg of you.
Okay. So back 10 seconds. Just get my phone off the table. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor. And again, thanks, folks, listening wherever you're listening on WYSL, WACK out in Newark, or any of the places online, Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, all the Kevin pages, all the Tim pages, wherever you're listening today. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the comments too, Michael, Steve. And yeah, we're talking about fake news today. Like war tends to generate a lot of that. Sometimes misunderstanding, sometimes intentional, sometimes with maybe a purpose that we agree with. So maybe we go along with it, maybe we don't, or a purpose that's malicious. And trying to be able to discern between those two is really important. There's one where, like, I'm curious what you think of this. The Miss Ukraine one. Have you seen that? Like,
Yeah, that where the airsoft model is like out fighting Russian aggression or what? Is that the one?
Well, no, so I've seen some of that too. Like, I think it seemed to me like it was legitimate that Miss Ukraine was like in doing photo shoots at least with,
Okay, maybe it was legitimate that she was doing photo shoots, but her weaponry was not legitimate. I want to be very clear about that. It was not.
yeah.
That was
So like
not
I've seen some of that stuff, and I'm like,
okay.
and I'm like, that, like, part of me, like, it doesn't quite sit right. Like, I get what it is, right? Like, again,
Right.
same thing, like on a much lesser scale than the present, but like, hey, look, like all of us are rallying together. No one's like too important, too famous, too beautiful to like not defend your country, right?
Which is great, but she's nowhere near the where there's action. I'm sure of
Yeah,
that. I feel like that one to me was offensive, to be honest. Like I get we do they want to build a narrative that people think defending Ukraine is important. And maybe I'm wrong, guys.
yeah. I mean,
Maybe I'm
like,
wrong, right?
again, like, I like something said, like, if war ever came to the US, God forbid, like similar things would happen, right? Like you'd see
Yeah,
celebrities. I mean, you saw it in like Iraq and Afghanistan too, like, not necessarily going out and joining the fight, but like going out and doing promotional stuff like that. And again, I don't know, maybe she really is going out and fighting. I don't 100% know that for sure,
right.
but I did see the pictures and I'm like, okay, like I kind of get, again, same thing. I get what you're doing here. Like as a libertarian, it makes me a bit uncomfortable. And I also want to point out, like, I don't necessarily need the Ukrainians to always be the good guys to still think Russia's the aggressor here. Again,
I
there's some
agree,
things that the
man.
Ukrainian government is doing that I super duper don't like. I like the conscription thing. I get it. I don't like conscription. I
Right.
don't like the propaganda. And there's a few times where, like, frankly, the Ukrainians are committing Geneva Convention violations. The Russians have committed way more, and
Right.
there's better evidence of it. But stuff like, um, so apparently it's against the Geneva Convention to record video or take photographs of POWs, which I didn't realize that. The intention is so you don't humiliate them, but like
Yeah.
some of the videos you see on social media, it's like it apparently that kind of violates the Geneva Convention. There was like a Ministry of Defense official too who tweeted out like, "Well, we're not going to take prisoners." That is a much bigger deal against the Geneva Convention. They walked that back
They walked
pretty
it back.
aggressively.
Good.
Yeah, because that's no that's a pretty bad one. Again, the Russians
There
attacking
are
civilian targets and doing
Yeah,
other
there's a
stuff
lot of
like,
stories coming out. I'm sorry to interrupt you like
yeah,
that.
go ahead.
But there's a lot of stories coming out about the Ukrainian people Russian reaching out to Russian troops and talking to them and asking them why they are there. And the Russian troops are coming back with, we have no idea.
Yeah,
Um, I so I don't know what to do about that. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's again, the people of Ukraine are mostly looking at this like they're defending their homes, right? And then, if you get if the average person who's in the Russian, you know, military who's over there is like, I don't see the point in this. That's going to create some pretty serious problems for the Russian government. If, again, they're easily abandoning equipment, which seems to be happening a lot. Like you see a lot of stories that sometimes they're getting stuck. Sometimes it's just like, yep, not dying for this. And, so it's if the motivation's not there, the logistics aren't there, if people don't see that the conflict that they're engaged in is important enough to die for.
They leave, and that's
Yeah.
good too. I guess 1,000,000 people, I guess, have fled Ukraine so far.
Yeah. That's tough. I mean, and on the US side, it's nice that the Biden administration isn't going to be deporting Ukrainians. They could, allow Ukrainian refugees to come in, but nope, not doing that, apparently.
Yeah,
Man, Biden, it's why this is going to come as a shock to folks listening on this station, but Biden is actually more strict on immigration than Donald Trump was. And I know, like, y'all ain't going to believe me when I say that, but if you really dig into the policy, he's more strict on immigration than Donald Trump was, and it's weird to say that. I
and
said,
he's
y'all ain't going to
turning it
believe
up.
me. Go look it up, but like
Right.
he is.
Yeah, he's turning it up. So it's interesting times that we're living in, Kevin.
Yeah.
How do we get to the bottom of it?
I don't know, man. Like I would say, like, keep being skeptical of stuff, right? And like
Well, we
try
got that
to,
covered.
yeah. I mean, like, yeah, we're always skeptical, right? Like I think like you and I and many other like libertarians, folks listen to the station, like we're immediately like almost too far sometimes. Like
I
whenever,
know, I
especially when a
know.
government says something like that's fake, no way,
That is totally
that
fake. They're
ain't real,
totally lying. They're trying
you
to
know.
manipulate me. They
And then
don't.
like every once in a while, like it comes out like we talked about that State Department story where like that guy from the State Department came out and it's like, yeah, Russia's gonna do false flag, and we're like, that's fake. There's no evidence of that.
There is.
It turned out to be true. It's
Well, they've done some false flags, right? They, according
yeah,
to how we define false flags, for sure. They've
yeah.
spread some fake news about this.
Yeah, so like so it's almost like my instinct is like almost everything I see, like I'm not immediately like, oh my goodness, yes. I'm not, like I like my default is like that's probably fake. I'm gonna Google that and see if it's real or not. Like I did that
Yeah,
earlier today where someone like started sharing this story because you see a lot of this stuff and it's so stupid. I talked about it on my Monday show, like this anti-Russian thing, but the story that came out was like Disney Plus is banning Anastasia because it's like about a Russian woman. And I was like, oh, well, that seems weird. I'm gonna look that up. That's not true. It like they are not banning. It was one of those things where like there it has to get pulled off of Disney Plus because there's a deal in place for it to be on like Stars in
right.
like mid-March, and then it's coming back to Disney Plus, and that only applies in the US. Anastasia is still on Disney Plus in Europe. So there is a bunch of like really stupid stuff going on, like similar to that. So it meets with
Yeah,
the narrative of people being, like xenophobic and nationalistic and like, doing dumb stuff, attacking like everyday Russian people or Russian culture. That just wasn't one of them. That was fake.
yeah. Um, so there is a story about Italy's main university in Milan just banned teaching Dostoevsky because he's a Russian
Yeah.
writer.
Y-
Now I posted it. I'm presuming that it's true, but it was from a tweet. I wonder if we should verify
Oh
it.
goodness, Tim, you just posted news willy nilly, not even know. All
You
right, so
know it,
I
man.
did look. This is one of the ones I prepared for the show too. I did look it up. So it was true that the university initially tried to like ban the class about this, right?
Yeah,
And the professor was very upset. A lot of the
good.
students and other folks were like, "What? Why? Why would you do that? That's stupid." And then a day later, like not even a whole day later, the university's like, "Oh, right, yeah, sorry. So no, you can do your class." So it's like it a thing for like a couple hours that they banned it.
Yeah, and to unify against Russia, like there are governors who run state liquor authorities that are forcing the removal of the one Russian brand vodka, Russian standard brand vodka off the shelves in their liquor stores.
Yeah, no, like it's just so dumb. I mean, and it's even worse too, because like you got like there's a version of Russian standard that is like owned by actually a business in Russia, right?
yeah,
But like there's a lot of other brands of Russian vodka that are not owned by people currently living in Russia, many of whom are either Russian expats or it's just owned by like, some conglomerate, right? Like Smirnov or Stoli is one where I think the owner's in Latvia and really doesn't like Putin. I hope I'm getting that one right. But like people
Right.
are dumping this stuff out, and I'm like,
Yeah,
why?
apparently
Come
one of
on.
the Stolichnaya, right? We all think
Yeah.
of that as a Russian vodka. That's another one where we're coming up on time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're
So
not
there's
supposed to acknowledge it. This is a signal, man.
oh man, I
All
feel bad.
right, we are running up on time though. I was gonna let you go on that point, but thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're gonna be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
But
I just gonna let you finish your point. Just to
I
like make
wasn't
it quick.
yeah, I wasn't sure about I got banned on I guess got banned on TikTok, man.
You did. What'd you do?
Hateful behavior?
Hateful behavior? What'd you do? It's because
I
you're talking
well
about
there
beaver.
someone reported me for hateful behavior, but I think that's just because they don't yeah, I'm gonna appeal it. I'm sure that I'm gonna win the appeal. I'm alright. I don't
They
know what
think
goes
that
on.
like we're like trash talking Russians. Like no, we're saying like yeah, Russian people are probably mostly
I
fine,
the
and that's
who knows?
you're being dumb if you're throwing
I
out their books and vodka
I'll have to sue them. I hope that there's a lawyer out there that can take my case.
for TikTok. No,
Yeah.
they will not.
Listen, I already got $1.14 there. It's obviously monetary value there. I'm losing access
Right.
to.
No, not now. See, that's you have a case. You have injury, right? Like a
Yes, that's
monetary injury.
all right. How many segments have we done? 2 or 3?
That's 3. So we got
Okay.
one more 12-minute segment.
All right.
So we can go back at 43.
Yeah.
And you want to go over your list? Anything else you want to talk about?
I do. I want to share. I want bonus content for the internet viewer. They need to see this news here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's accurate. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So this
They're
is a
they're
picture of Igor Maversky
yep.
and Guskov.
Yeah,
Two great Ukrainian.
their tagline is "I feel the need for speed."
Oh
Say,
my god.
oh, that was that.
That's pretty funny though.
Feel
That's
the
great.
need for speed.
I love it. Oh, you know what? Like piece of like sort of propaganda we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about the sunflowers thing. You've seen that?
I
You,
have.
you had to have seen that.
I don't think
Did
I
you
did.
see people with sunflowers everywhere? Wonder why that is?
Me, no. I avoid
All
people
right.
for the most part, except for.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, like in their like Twitter handles. Well, yeah, Twitter's accessible. You're not looking at that.
No, what's a sunflower thing? All right, we'll
All right,
do it
well,
on
we're
later.
gonna talk about that.
Okay, at 43.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor. And we're not doing the Fake News Friday segment because this all day is Fake News Friday. The whole show is Fake News Friday.
It is.
And yeah, actually, so we're talking about this over the break, and like one of the things that we didn't talk about was, which again, like a piece of like propaganda, maybe. And again, I don't know how I feel about it, other than like it's both haunting and powerful, and also like weirds me out a bit. But the sunflower thing, you hadn't heard about this, right? Like why everyone's putting like sunflower profile pictures and putting them in the Twitter handle, all that
Yeah, no,
stuff.
I don't think I have.
No, so like sunflowers are like, for I guess, the national flower of Ukraine, they're also a big exporter of sunflower. It's like a big crop there, but it's also that like there's this video of a woman who like went up to some Russian soldiers, video of Ukrainian woman went to some Russian soldiers and like, basically cursed them out and is like, you need to get out. And then, towards the end of it, she's like, here, take some sunflower seeds and put them in your pocket, they'll grow where you fall. Ooh.
Whoa,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, TikTok would have banned me for that.
Oh,
But
yeah, sir. Yeah, if you didn't get banned before, it's but like so that went around, and that's why I don't know. Like I saw a bunch of memes where it's like that Bugs Bunny one's like, I wish you a very I wish all the Russian invaders very happy sunflower seeds in your pocket. I saw that one. I saw,
wow.
but yeah, like I mean, like that, like what a like weird haunting curse. And like some folks are like, oh, that was all staged. And like, all right, like maybe it was, but like it's still, I mean, it's staged in the sense that you could do a TikTok that is a planned thing with an unsuspecting like person, and it's still a real interaction, right? But
Correct. Yeah.
yeah, so like, yeah, that's if you're seeing sunflowers all over the place, like that's part of the reason. There's this
Yeah.
basically curse that this woman gave, is like put sunflower seeds in your pocket so that we'll have flowers where you fall.
Wow. That's not, yeah. I get it, man. You don't want Russians invading your country. But that's harsh, man.
Yeah, no,
That's
that's
really harsh.
yeah, that's like that's a haunting curse to get, to get from someone from
Yeah.
like a older Ukrainian woman. Um, so yeah, I mean, like it's stuff like that though, but that motivates people. Again, that the imagery like ended up kind of spreading throughout that country for that reason, motivates people. You know, like, hey, this is there. These folks are choosing to be here. You know, they chose to invade. So you know, this is the curse we give you. Um, and that type of stuff again. You know, it's tough to say like with that one. Like I get it as like a rallying cry. You know, it makes sense. Like these types of things, these legends, these mythologies are gonna pop up. You
Yeah.
know, and you know, again, it's tough. I try not to get sucked into it because I don't think that most people who are sharing this stuff, rooting for Ukrainians, necessarily want us to go to war. Like I
I
see that
agree.
like, oh, like if you're sharing this stuff, you're warmonger, you're trying to get us in this. And like I don't think that's what it is. I think that they're hoping that the Russian imperialists lose.
Yeah.
That's not to say that they want the US to get involved. And I really hope the US doesn't get involved. And I think most of the country also hopes that more
I
involved than we already are.
Yeah, I'm not right. I I'm torn, Kevin, about this. We're buying Russian oil, and
Oh
I
yeah,
did
yeah,
some
yeah.
research. It is like 600,000 barrels a day of Russian
Yeah, no,
oil.
I started looking it up after. I was like, because I looked at
Yeah,
that
our
number
friend
and I was like,
Robert.
oh no, that was like to, you know, it wasn't like 27,000 barrels. It was like that times, you know,
Yeah,
100
10
100,000.
percent of our imports come from Russian oil fields.
Yeah.
10%. And
And
Jen Psaki says only 10%.
only
And I'm kind of
10%.
like,
Like
only
that's a big
10%?
deal.
That is a huge, huge, huge amount of oil, especially when we already drew down on our strategic petroleum reserves to try to lower the price of gas. I'm a
Yeah.
little concerned here. Like, again, I think, and I'm,
Well, should we do like a sanction? Should we stop buying the what Canadians are going to do that apparently?
we should. Look. We've talked about energy independence is important.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-fossil fuel. I accept that people want different sources of power, but security requires that we have some access to oil. Food security, national security, defense security. We can't just do away with it.
Right.
And why not buy it from our friends and neighbors than from some tyrant that wants to invade another
Yeah,
country and use the
if it's
proceeds from
funding
that?
the war effort, right? You know, that's
Yeah,
so good. I mean, it's tough. Like what's interesting because you got like people like Lindsey Graham and Nancy Pelosi and bipartisan support for having sanctions on oil, but it'll be interesting because this is a midterm election year. People get real short term thinking those years. So like, do you take the risk of running the sanctions and having gas prices go up even more?
yeah.
Do you do the right thing when it may have a significant cost? And is
It
it the right thing, right? Like again, like it will hurt the American people to have sanctions too, in addition
it
to
that
hurting not just the Russian government, but also some of the Russian people too. Like some of the
yeah,
sanctions that we have now are hurting the average Russian person, and that stinks. It's not
yeah.
that it's necessarily the wrong move, but it hurts average people too.
Sanctions are another, like, hidden tax on lower middle class people, the working poor, like, we lose access to goods and services that we need through sanctions because we get priced out of that market, and
You know?
so, again, but I get it, like, I don't wanna send kids in, and so if we stop buying Russian oil, will that stop his aggression faster? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
I
don't
mean,
know. Like neither of us are foreign policy experts, guys. We're just two dudes like chatting about this on the radio as like normal people. Like same thing that most of you listening today are trying to figure it out. You know, I don't know. I know gas is expensive. Tim, you're gonna have to start riding your bike to work like me.
yeah, well, let's just say that that's not feasible. I
Get
mean,
an electric bike, Tim.
Uh,
It's
eh,
fine.
yeah, no, it's still not feasible. Sometimes
You
I
got your
drive like
solar panels. You charge up your bike during the
yeah,
day.
Yeah, sometimes I drive over 100 miles to get to work. Like today, I put on today I had to go service some computer systems, which thank God my boss was with me because I am horrible with that stuff, as Kevin has seen and witnessed. Um, so yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to do that with electric vehicles. I don't think.
Yeah,
And
listen, Tim, get an electric bike. You can only buy a class 2 bike in New York State, so it's supposed to be maxed at 25 miles an hour.
all right,
Take it apart, remove the
keep it up.
restrictions on that. There are ways. There are ways. You
The
can go like
king,
40 miles an hour on this
yeah,
bike.
nice.
You
The
know,
king won't let me use it on his highway, Kevin. I will have to pay extra taxes and risk imprisonment
yeah.
if I
No,
keep
is it
using.
actually like that type of bike? Like you're supposed to treat it as like a motorcycle to do that. Which is like you can't buy like class 3 electric bikes in New York State. So I had to get like a class 2 bike that, you know, gets throttled after like 25 miles an hour or
Oh,
whatever.
my freedom. They take our freedom all the
I
time, these
know.
clowns. I, I mean, I am still I want flying cars, Kevin, and I want them to just kind of hover on the ground, and I want to like search where I'm going and have them hover there in like half the time it takes me to drive, and I take a nap while I'm heading there. That's what I think would be the best. It would be a transportation revolution.
I'm sure Elon Musk is working on it. Like
Probably
we just
is.
trust Elon. You know,
I think
he'll get it done.
I do have a fake news thing I want to drop on you, man.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's this
Yeah.
is the show for it.
It is, right? So it's going to be the true or false thing, right?
All right, all right.
There are people that have said, in a way, that a nuclear war, right? It seems like you might be familiar with this one, but that a nuclear war could end global warming.
Okay, so I did see this.
Okay.
So it it is, from what I understand, a real article, but it's a very old one and not, as I understand, like totally serious.
It comes from back in the old days when global warming was in fact global warming and not global climate change. All right.
Yeah.
So there was a writer for the Huffington Post offered an op-ed piece, right? That nuclear war is a bad thing, right? With a question mark. And honestly, let's be honest what this really is, right? It's
Yeah.
like a plea for attention, right? Huffington Post was relatively new, it only a few years old in 2011. They wanted attention.
It's a clickbait headline. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a horrible thing, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, it's
it's being pretty
awful. Like,
glib about like terrible, terrible destruction. But
yeah, so but yes, he makes the case that yes, according to global climate scientists, a distinct like 0.03% of the nuclear arsenal being exploded could cause a nuclear winter and cure global warming.
right.
He did, it- like you said, like we see, like you and I see, this was automatic clickbait. It was a demand for attention. Um, he did swing it back around and just be like, "All right, look, but really, what will happen is this. This is a bad idea, basically."
Right.
He said the cons, and I'm quoting him now.
Right.
This Dean uh, Praetorius, which I think is a fake name, but whatever. The cons seem to outweigh the pros in the event of global cooling caused by even a small nuclear war. So, thank you, Dean, for bringing that piece home.
It's important clarification to add to any piece where
But
you advocate nuclear war.
yeah, that is really
And
important to add.
this is bad, by the way. All right.
And
Yeah.
this is weird, but that's where our society has gotten to, right? Like people demand attention and they say outlandish things to get attention.
Yeah.
In my
And
opinion,
I'll just read this comment there. Gene Sprouse says, I'm an Uber driver. Gas prices have gone up every day this week where I live. Yeah, no, it's been wild. And again,
it's over $4 now. We're around here.
yeah,
So
it's gonna get worse. And yeah, if
100.
sanctions happen, it's gonna get worse too, right? Like it's gonna make gas prices go up. And maybe again, that's the sacrifice politically enough of us agree to make it happen, right? Like again, right or wrong, that's how our
It's
system
Kevin,
works.
it's the
But
cost of freedom is what people are telling me, right? Like the freedom for who though? And I don't quite
yeah,
understand that. Like the inflation, that is one of the reasons why we should control inflation to the best of our ability. That's why a stable, sound monetary policy is better than what we've experienced. Because now we had horrible monetary policy that started a round of horrible inflation, and now it's going to be exacerbated by a military conflict. These
Yeah.
things are predictable on the scale of human events and the scope and scale that disasters are going to happen, even if it's a major earthquake like what happened in Japan, that tidal wave 3 nuclear reactors or 2 nuclear reactors. That's why we are obligated to this. And the Fed.
Tim, you're on a roll. We're out of time, man. All right. Thanks again for joining us on A Free Solution. We got to go, unfortunately.
Yep.
Have a wonderful weekend, folks. Take care. All right, you can continue your rant now, Tim. I'm sorry, man. Like, no, you're on a roll, and I'm like, no, radio show's coming up, and I'm like, Tim.
It took a while to get the fire built today, but I was having fun. Like, it's cool to have fun too. So, but yeah, no, like that's the thing, right? Stable, sound monetary policy that combats inflation because it has value back to it, or human value is intrinsic to it, which we don't have anymore. Now it's just the government says, here's this piece of paper to go buy those things. We're disconnected from our value and our monetary supply,
Right.
and so, but in the course of human events, wars are predictable, disasters are predictable, and that is why we advocate for these things.
Yeah.
We're not that bad on foreign policy. I was wondering, sometimes libertarians are. I'm concerned that we can't sell our foreign policy, but we can.
Yeah. Well, generally, I think so, right? Like, it's again the crux of it is that like we shouldn't get involved in places where we can't make a positive difference, which is most situations.
Most situations.
Right. And too much of American foreign policy rests on the hubris that we can control situations. Whether it's through open conflict or subterfuge or whatever, right? That's the hubris of a lot of like, and most of the time, like again, that we can't do that. We tried to do that in Iraq and ended up being a civil war. We tried to do that in Afghanistan. Again, I get the reasoning for going into Afghanistan, especially, but trying to control that country was unsuccessful, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
To understate the heck out of that.
Yeah, I was hoping to bash the UN today during the show too, but whatever. It's not important. It's just horrible.
Just generally, I mean, like, yeah.
One of, I guess I would go to that article that I was gonna run down through where some of the things that the Guardian is saying have been debunked aren't necessarily debunked. But yeah.
Right, so what do you have? Because I'm not gonna. We can't. I don't know. Maybe we will do another show on this, but like, what are the things?
All right, so the number
this is
one,
bonus content.
Russian-speaking residents in the Donbass region of Ukraine have been subjected to genocide. Now, that's been debunked. That's by the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, has found no evidence of this. But 14,000 people are dead from violent conflict in that region. So, like, that's a debunking, but I'm like skeptical of the debunking a little bit. Like,
I know, like I think the case that like Vladimir Putin was trying to say, like there's like a genocide of ethnic Russians who are trying to like form their own independent state, but you have to keep in mind, like, okay, so there is pretty clear evidence that like Russia was sending in operatives into that area and causing problems, and by causing problems I mean killing people, and then trying to stop those folks along with the people who really did want to separate, which polling prior to conflict breaking out indicated that was a pretty small minority of folks. They did the referendum where like 94% said they wanted to break off or whatever, but like if you went to one of the polling places, there's like a guy with a gun,
standing outside saying, "You don't want to vote on this today."
Yeah.
Well, that was number one. Polish-speaking saboteurs attempted to bomb a chlorine plant in Donbass. The video, for which there is no evidence, was recorded days before it was alleged to have taken place. So, okay, that one I'll go with. I don't know.
Well, like that was like one of the ones with all the metadata that like they left it in, and it's like, oh no, this is the timing for that does not make sense.
Yeah, Ukrainian forces bombed a kindergarten in Luhansk, eastern Ukraine, on the 17th of February. They're saying the shelling actually came from Russian separatists, but they don't. And this is where the news fails, right? That's their debunking of it. They don't have who's saying that, who proved that. So, but I'm not saying that Ukraine did bomb a kindergarten. That doesn't make sense. But it also doesn't make sense Russia did it on purpose, but maybe they did, right? Like, would they target a
Well, yeah,
Ukraine
that's one of
flag?
those things where it's tough to tell, right? Like,
That
okay, was that an accident? Is there miscommunication? I mean, again, obviously, bombing a kindergarten is horrific, no matter what. Did they do it on purpose to then try to blame it on the Ukrainians, which they did do with some attacks, right?
that
Like
could be
that's
right. That
I don't know, and
but there's
I don't want to be like my trust in the Russian government's pretty low.
I
you
it
know,
would I think that's justified. I respect that position. Russia did not target civilian infrastructure in Ukraine at the start of the invasion. Amnesty International documented at least 3 Russian military attacks on civilian areas in Ukraine. So that one, I'll go with legit. So this is one that comes up pretty regular. Okay, Nazism is rampant in Ukrainian politics and society, supported by authorities in Kiev. I don't know, man. Whatever
yeah.
that place in Ukraine. Um, the so what
Yeah,
would
no, this one actually, I kind of, I meant to talk about this one during today's show too, because
it would have been a good
this one's
one.
important. Because like from what I've read about that, it's not totally untrue. It's just not as extensive as Russia claims it
All right.
is.
So my question is if a far right Nazi sympathizer was able to get on the ballot in the United States, okay, what percentage of the population in the United States would vote for that guy? And I know some people are going to come up with like 5%, 6%. You're crazy. You're wrong. It wouldn't be more than 1%. I don't think.
Depends on
I
how
don't
you
think.
define that, right?
Right.
Like,
I
we'll
don't think we get to
define Donald
1%.
Trump as that. I mean, I'm not
Right.
necessarily agreeing with that.
I know. I got you. Yeah.
Well,
I got
but you do have folks like, if we were on the radio, people would be mad about this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she spoke at like what was legitimately a white nationalist conference last
okay.
weekend. With Nick Fuentes talking about how why would anyone compare Putin to Hitler? That's a good thing.
Oh.
And yeah, so like this dude who is a piece of shit was on that program on at that conference, and this sitting congresswoman was there too, speaking and talking about how she was being attacked because people criticized her for showing up at a conference speaking between white nationalists.
All right.
But okay, so anyway, about the Ukrainian Nazi thing, like, so
Yeah.
something to keep in mind is like the president of Ukraine is Jewish, and I think his grandfather died in the Holocaust.
All those things can be true, and you can still be George Soros, right? Like that. Like there was, and I'm not. The thing is that he did work for the Nazis. He admits it. Like, and so there's still always this conflict. Okay, and I'm not saying that his situation wasn't sad when he was a child, but he certainly has accumulated a lot of power over the years.
Right.
Um,
So George Soros aside, the Ukrainian situation, right? Like, there's a lot of Europe that has big problems with like far right movements, right? Like
yeah,
from like
but
the milder UKIP version to like Viktor Orban in Hungary, who's
yeah,
definitely a far right figure, to Alternative for Deutschland in Germany, which is like a quasi fascist movement, and then like the Ukrainians, yeah, they have their own like actual Nazi movement, and you'll see
yeah,
like images come out like there's it looks like almost like a thunderbolt symbol, like it's called the Azov battalion,
correct, right, and
and they're Nazis, like
they
they
are,
confirm like yeah like 40% of our people are Nazis, and
yeah.
they've been actively fighting in the contested regions in eastern Ukraine for a while, accused of torturing folks. Like that's a legit thing. I don't think that's the same as
He
the
got
entire country is run by Nazis.
no, I
It's
get it,
terrible
I
though. They
get
have
it,
a
I get it.
problem, but
I get that, but 1.6% of the people voted for this Sabota guy in Ukraine, and I think that actually is substantial. Like I
oh,
think
it
that
is.
I'm saying that
But I
people
mean,
are
is
saying
that
it's not a
justification to
problem
invade the
when
place, right?
yeah.
Like you got to denazify it now because 1.6% of the vote went to fascist. No,
No, no, no, yeah, right. There's always the third way. I get that part too, Kevin, for
yeah,
sure. It's just the
yeah.
but far right nationalism it seems like it is a real problem. But does that give Putin the authority to go in and destroy a country. No,
No,
like
like, yeah, like that's the justification, and people
yes,
being like,
I
well,
know.
he is cleaning up a problem. There are really Nazis there. I'm like, well, yeah, I know. I mean, there are Nazis in the U.S. too. That's not a reason to do that. Like, if there ever like actually a conflict that broke out here, like there would 100% be militias that are not necessarily associated with the government who would be fascist militia. Like it would happen. Like there are already militias that exist out there who are like full on Nazi, right? Like that's like just something that happens. And like you can bet, and I'm going down like a survivalist fever dream pitch. Like if China ever invade the United States and they're trying to occupy Idaho and they're fighting with these guys, they're gonna like raise them up and be like, see, the US is full of Nazis. We're just liberating them from their own fascists. Like that's what would happen.
Oh, the libertarian mindset, bro. I'm telling you, our brains travel down these
Yeah.
dangerous twisting wormholes. I know
But
that's how
like,
my
so,
brain
like
works too.
I like this. I know it sounds like I'm down a bizarre rabbit hole, but like really, like that's my way of like empathizing. Like, okay, like could this propaganda be turned against like me and my neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're defending our country in like, and again, I don't think that's something that's going to happen anytime soon. But if we're defending our country and there's like one guy in like my group of people who are fighting off the Chinese in Rochester, New York, and they're like, see, you're all Nazis. Like, I'm gonna be pretty mad about that.
Your feelings are gonna be hurt. You're
That's
gonna
right.
be
My feelings will be hurt, and that's
makes you
what's most important. I'm
yeah.
being glib. I shouldn't be, but
I
yeah,
well,
like it's like, but I have empathy for that, right? Like your
yeah,
average person in Ukraine is just like, I want to defend my home. I want to be able
yes.
to like elect my own people and have my country make its own choices. They're not about that stuff, and I want to unfairly paint them with that broad brush when they have a legit problem, but it's not even close to the majority of people.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of those things and the difficulties and I think that's part of the difficulties why we take a look at what happens in the mainstream media, us and our friends and the people that listen to this radio show and stuff like that. That we get into this conundrum of none of this is actually true. Let's like every single thing gets sensationalized and everybody wants to be either or because either or is simpler than
Yeah.
the truth,
It's
you know?
messy. Again, like
It
there is
is.
like I know there's some folks on like that Nazi show like there are no Nazis in Ukraine. Like no, there definitely are.
No, there
It's
definitely is.
it's definitely a thing. It's definitely a problem. But
Yeah. And then there's a few more. Oh, another one that we should have probably got to during the show is this whole bio weapon labs of the U.S. sponsored bioweapons labs in the Ukraine and how Russia
ooh.
bombed them out of existence. That was a meme that was going around. It got taken down pretty fast, but it was a big
Oh,
one for a while.
I did see a couple people post about that. I didn't look into that. I was like, oh, that'd be good for Fake News Friday, and then I immediately like
You're like,
forgot to like follow up on that.
So the U.S. has a network of bioweapons labs in Eastern Europe, and somebody came up with a map of where Russians had sent missiles, and they overlapped quite nicely with where the purported U.S. bioweapons labs are, and
All
so
right, so they're saying they're in cahoots. All right.
yeah, the claims are based on a misrepresentation of the U.S. Department of Defense's biological threat reduction plan. There was a couple things about the meme and the statement that I was concerned with. Number one, we don't know where Russia actually bombed. This isn't the news saying this is where Russia bombed. This is someone saying this is where Russia bombed, and it just so happens that we have labs there. And I'm sure that the U.S. does have labs there, right? Like, but this is this is probably too far of a stretch to go. Oh, there's a piece of truth in it. I think it's just nonsense.
Yeah. All right. We should probably call it a night though. We're like
All right,
20
brother.
minutes over.
All
All
right.
right. So thanks everyone who's still listening. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for indulging us for some extra time. I hope you enjoy this extra content sometimes.
It's for you guys. It's bonus content.
All right.
All
Have
right, man.
a great night, folks.
Yeah, you too, Kevin. Take care, buddy.